Welcome everybody. In this video and the next few, we're going to really look at charts and how to create different kinds of charts, pie charts, bar charts, all that good stuff. So there's a ton of different images that you can use in Excel. I think Griffey's coming to say hi, those of you who can see him in the corner. I'm going to start with this video with a pie chart. So this video will be all about pie charts, and I'll show you some ways that you can use them, get them going, and edit them. I will warn that with Excel, different versions of Excel do have some variations. So if you're using a different version from what I'm using Excel 365 today. There could be some slight changes, but again, really just getting in there and trying out the different formats is the easiest way to try to figure it out. If you're stuck at home though, again, because you're using a different version of Excel or it's not working the right way, just reach out to me and I can do my best to help you. I do find that's probably one of the most stressful parts about Excel are the charts, because they can be different in different versions, just very little subtle changes here or there. So I'm going to show you today how to make a pie chart, or at least in this video. So here I have a new Excel workbook open, and I'm on the tab that says asset mix. So this is about, investments here, right? So this company or this person, whoever we're referring to here, has different investments, some in equities, bonds, non-US equities, non-US bonds, and cash and equivalents. And all the information is added up here. So this is really nice, but it'd be great to have a visual. A lot of people really like visuals. They find them easier to read and to understand. So we want to create a visual and we want to do it well. And we want to make sure it is, of course, accurate and easy to follow. And those are the two most important things with visuals. So I'm going to use a pie chart here. And again, there's many ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you one strategy that you could try. So I'm going to go to the page where my data is, and I'm going to highlight my data. I'm not going to highlight the total. I'm just going to highlight the key information. So the labels, as well as the data here. And you'll notice that this little box pops open here, which is that quick analysis box. And if I click that, you can do a few things, right? We've seen this before, but one of the tabs is charts. And this is a way to add in some of the more common charts here. And you have the pie chart here as well. So that's one way you can do it. And I'm going to do it that way in just a second. Let me just move my screen a little bit here. There's other ways to do it too. So if you go up top, you do have an insert feature, and you can insert different types of graph this way. So you have recommended charts here, which you could click, and it will kind of recommend some charts that you may like for that type of data. So you can again see your pie chart here, or you can select, right? You can see different types of charts and shapes. I see the one that looks like a pie chart here. So I can insert a pie chart that way too. So there's different ways that you can do it. And again, if you find that one way works better for your version of Excel than the others, then just choose that way. I will say from a mathematical perspective, I know those in other fields may disagree, but for mathematical perspectives, don't use 3D charts. Like this 3D pie chart is really hard to read. It distorts the size of the pie pieces because it's in 3 dimensions and not just flat and in 2 dimensions. So when you're choosing your pie chart, definitely choose a 2D pie chart. Again, you may find down the road that you have a company that does things a little bit differently, but from a math perspective and a statistics perspective, the clearer our data, the better. So really avoid 3D graphics if you can. So I would use a 2D pie chart here. So you can click it right here if you want to, or again, I'll delete this for a second. You could have used that little quick analysis box down here and do a chart that way as well. And it's amazing, right? There are all your pie pieces already done for you, which is totally amazing, right? We do want to do some editing here to make this a little bit better, but this is a really great start, and you didn't have to do any work. If you were trying to do this by hand, you'd actually would need like a protractor and a compass to actually find out the correct degrees and angles of all of those pie pieces, because there's 360 degrees all the way around. So it's really tough to do by hand, and this is really nice. All right, now I'm going to basically take this video and show you different things that you can do with your pie chart. But again, at home, you can really play around with this a lot more. So one thing you want to know up top here, now that I have a chart open, you do see it says chart design. So you could always refer to up here as well. I do tend to like this quick layout feature. I end up using a lot personally because it can change between, just different styles of that pie chart. It doesn't have to be a bar graph. It's kind of whatever your chart is. It will give you some quick layouts that you may like better. So I tend to like that quick layout feature a lot. You can change colors. You have different styles here as well. Again, you can change the chart. Let's say you don't want a pie chart, you can change that. But what I want to show you first is how to move your chart. So notice how the chart was just kind of embedded onto this sheet, right? Which could be great. If that's where you want it, then that's perfectly fine. You can leave it there. You could also move it to its own tab, right? To its own sheet if you need more space for this chart. Or you can move it somewhere else. So if you want to move it, I'm going to hit the Move Chart button over here. And again, you can move it to a new sheet if you want it on its own sheet. Maybe you would like to print it, separately or have it analyzed in a different way. You can do that. Here, I'm going to just move it to a different sheet that I already have. So I'm going to put this on my summary sheet, which maybe is a helpful place to put this graph. And then I'm going to hit OK. And you're going to see that it went from my asset sheet and moved to my summary sheet. So now it's over there. All right, now I don't like where it landed at all, so I do want to move it. And what you can do is just select your graph. Make sure you have that kind of double arrow show up so that you can move it. And then you can physically just use your mouse, hold that down and move it around on your grid and or on your sheet here. And you can put it anywhere you want. You can put it in between cells, you can put it over stuff. I mean, you can do whatever you want here. If you use the Alt key as well with it, when I hold down to click and drag, it will kind of shift it a little easier to the end of the cells. So you may find that helpful, but you don't have to, but you can drag that around. You can also change the size. So if I go down to the corner here, again, I can just go ahead and change that size and make it as big or as small as I want to. And again, when you hold down that Alt key, you can see it kind of jumps and instead it lines up with the cell orders. So that's a helpful tool as well. Again, I'm just holding and dragging, and then when I add in the Alt key, it will help me line up with my cell edges if that's something that you're interested in doing. And you can see that everything adjusts accordingly, right? All right, so let's look at some other things that you can do. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. So you do have some features over here. You have chart elements. We'll start with chart elements. So you can see here that I have chart title and legend selected. You can also add in data labels. So if I want those data values of the pie chart to be there, I can go ahead and click data labels. And those are coming directly from my data on the asset mix. So if I go back here, that data is coming from right here. So maybe I want to put that in. I could also go in and if I click my title, I could double click and change it. So I don't want to change this title, but if I wanted to, I could go in and double click that and actually change that as well. You can even click your pie and pull out a piece of that pie and separate it out. We don't do that too often, but if you want to draw attention to particularly one part of the pie, sometimes we'll pull one part of the pie out and separate that as well. Again, you can really just play around here. So I'm going to go back to that chart element. And again, you can also see this arrow click over. So for instance, for my data labels, I have it as best, it's labeled as best fit here, but I could change it to outside fit, make them go inside. And I have more options there as well. So you can kind of change where they label everything. Under more options, I can also change and add in the percentage. Actually, let me make sure I click my whole chart here. Go back here and make sure my whole chart's selected, not just that one pie piece again. All right, so if I click percentage now, everything is selected. And you can see all those percentages get added in. Now this is a little bit messy, so maybe I would want to get rid of the value and just have the percents, which is what we do a lot of times, is we'll just have the percentage breakdown. And I can close this when I'm done. Again, I don't really like the way my numbers are, so maybe I go in here and I'm going to do an outside fit. That looks better. Inside fit puts them all inside the pie. Best fit kind of does what they think, what Excel thinks is best. I don't really like them outside, so I'm going to choose outside fit. I think it makes it a little bit easier to read. I'm going to keep going back to this chart elements feature for a second. For the legend, again, I can go over here and I can change it. It's at the bottom now, but I can make it go on the right or up top or on the left. So I can really, again, just kind of move that around to where I see is the best. And again, you have more options here as well. Two, you can also change your coloring. So let's say I would like to fill in the background here of my legend. I could click the fill button. And maybe we do a solid fill and we can change it to whatever color we want. Maybe I want to do it as a green color. That looks kind of nice. Something light, you can do it as light green, maybe a light gold there, right? So you have that 80% lighter gold accent, number 5, and it can fill in the back there. So you can add a border if you want to around your legend. So maybe I would like to add a border around my legend. And so on. So again, you can really kind of play around with each of the different key parts and decide how you want to have them shown. If you go to the paint section here, so this is chart styles, you can do different styles. So I do recommend doing the styles before you start changing everything else because it will revert back. Like if I click this one, it's going to revert back. Or if I click this one, it's going to look exactly like you see here. So it's not going to have those changes of moving my legend over or anything like that. So if you do want to do a different style, again, I recommend looking at those chart styles right at the beginning before you start changing everything around. And you can also change the color here too, right? So these are the colors that I'm using, but you could go to something monochromatic. You can use a different color scheme, etc. And again, as you're doing your color schemes, you do want to think about your audience to make sure that the colors are distinguishable and that they also print well too. So just some things to consider here. All right. If you go back up to chart design here too, you can also change the different styles and themes up top as well. So that's just another way that you can edit and modify, again, your chart. Again, I would recommend changing the theme or the style first before you go in and make too many other changes because they don't always update appropriately. You may have to redo some work. So kind of choose that first and then go ahead and start making any updates that you like, okay? Okay. One last thing I really want to talk about here, or I guess a couple things as we wrap up, is again, you can change some of the formatting. So for instance, if I go to chart filters and I don't want everything included, I could actually unselect some of the parts, hit apply, and then you'll see not everything will be included in my chart. It'll reverberate just to the data that I want used. So that can be helpful too. And again, you can kind of play around with different parts here. Every time I want these key features to pop up, I do have to click my chart. Once I click a different cell, you can see they go away. So if I do want to keep editing, I just click that chart area and then my main tools will pop up. Or again, you can use chart design up top here. If I go to chart title, again, you can also change where it is. Right now I have it above the chart, but I can also do it kind of centered like overlay, like a little bit of an overlap there if I want to, blow that pie chart out a little bigger there. So again, I just encourage you just to really play around, right? You can come in here, you could add borders, you could add fill colors behind it, and so on, different effects, sizes, text options, and so on. So you can really go in and change all of those features. So I encourage you to kind of play around with that part on your own. The last thing I want to show you is as you update your data, it does update here as well. So if I go back to the asset mix data, and I notice that, this first value was 73,804.15. Well, maybe I made a mistake there, or maybe I need to update that. So I can go in here and I can update this information. I'm going to change it to $63,804. and 15 cents. I'm just going to hit enter, and that will update my chart here, but it will also update my image. So it does update here as well. And then this piece here changed to 45%. If I go backwards, you can see that it used to be 48%. So as you update your data, it's really nice because your chart will go ahead and update as well. So again, that's super helpful. You can also go ahead and change things. Maybe I just want to write this as cash instead. I'm just going to hit enter there. And again, I go back to my summary and you can see that the label updated here. So as you make changes in the original data, your chart will update. It just makes it a really, really nice feature here. And that's kind of a way that you can perform what if analysis too, is sometimes if people who are more visual, you could go back into the original data, play around with some different numbers and see how that affects the chart, right? And maybe that's a better way for you to interpret the information.